The stars were silent that night, glowing softly over the metal skin of Outpost Orpheus, a human station built on the edge of Valoran space. The night shift was quiet, with only the hum of machines and the low vibration of reactors filling the air. Captain Elias Ward sat alone in the control deck, sipping a lukewarm cup of coffee. Elias was a man of routine, quiet, patient, and calm under pressure. His job was simple: maintain communications, manage incoming signals, and make sure no one accidentally angered the alien empires that watched humanity from afar. He had seen strange things in space before, but tonight something new appeared on the radar. At first, it was just a faint blip, a small object drifting in the darkness. The sensors couldn't identify it. No beacon, no signal, no sign of life. Elias frowned and leaned closer to the screen. Unregistered object detected, range 0.9 light units, his ship's AI Lyra announced. Can you scan it? Elias asked. Partial scan complete. Metallic structure. Possibly a pod. Very small. Elias's heart began to race. A pod could mean an escape craft on someone in danger, or worse, someone lost. He switched on the thrusters and moved the outpost scout shuttle toward the signal. The stars stretched into lines as the small craft sped forward, silent but determined. After 15 minutes, the object came into view. It was indeed an escape pod, damaged and spinning slowly. Its outer shell was marked with elegant symbols Elias didn't recognize, smooth lines that glowed faintly blue, like veins of light running across the metal. Valoran design, he murmured. He'd heard stories about the Valoran Empire, a powerful ancient race with technology beyond human understanding. Humans had limited contact with them. Diplomats said the Valorans were proud and distant, believing themselves above most species. As Elias approached, he saw faint frost forming on the pod's windows. Inside, something moved. Someone. He quickly docked the shuttle and opened the hatch. Cold air rushed in as he stepped into the pod. Inside, a small figure lay curled under a survival blanket. She was trembling, her skin a faint shade of silver blue with markings that shimmered like tiny stars. Her hair floated softly, pale as moonlight. Elias knelt beside her and checked for signs of life. The child opened her eyes, bright silver, reflecting the light like mirrors. She looked at him with fear and confusion. It's okay, Elias said softly. You're safe now. I'm human. I won't hurt you. Her lips moved slightly as if she was trying to form words she barely knew. Huikman, he nodded. Yes, human. For a moment she just stared, then whispered something that made his heart skip a beat. Will you be my Earth father? Elias froze. The words were innocent, spoken with the soft voice of a frightened child. She didn't understand the meaning, not fully. But the way she looked at him, like she was asking for protection, struck him deeply. He smiled gently. Let's get you warm first, little one. We'll talk later. He carried her back to the shuttle, wrapping her in a thermal blanket. As they left the pod behind, he noticed the insignia on its side, a royal crest, marked with 3 glowing stars. It could only mean one thing. She was royalty. Back on the outpost, Elias laid her in the med bay and ran a gentle health scan. The screen showed mild dehydration, low oxygen, and signs of trauma, but she would recover. He handed her a warm cup of water. Drink slowly, he said. She watched him carefully, her large eyes curious. You help me? Yes, Elias said. That's what humans do, she tilted her head. A man kind? Elias chuckled softly. Some of us are. She tried to mimic his smile, and for the first time he saw a hint of calm in her expression. As she rested, Elias checked the pod's data logs. Most of the files were damaged, but one short message remained, written in an alien script. Lyra translated it. In case of danger, this beacon will guide you home. Protect the child of the Queen. Elias leaned back in his chair, staring at the message. The child of the Queen, his mind spun. He wasn't just helping a lost alien. He was holding the daughter of one of the most powerful rulers in the galaxy. What have you gotten yourself into, Elias? He muttered. Meanwhile, the girl stirred again. She seemed calmer now, wrapped in a blanket, watching the stars through the med bay window. What is your name? Elias asked. She hesitated, as if remembering something far away. Kalyra, she said softly. Kalyra, Elias repeated. That's a beautiful name. She smiled faintly. Mother say same. At the mention of her mother, her expression changed. Her eyes filled with tears that shimmered like drops of light. They heard her. I run, bad men come. Elias's chest tightened. You're safe now. I promise. She looked up at him, uncertain but hopeful. Promise? I promise, he said firmly. The girl slowly reached out her small hand and placed it over his. Her skin felt cool but soft, almost glowing faintly. Then you... Earthfather? Elias laughed softly, trying not to show how much the word touched him. If that makes you feel safe, then yes. I'll be your Earthfather. For the first time, Kalira smiled. A real bright smile that lit up her face. It was the kind of smile that reminded Elias of home, of his little sister years ago before he'd left Earth for the stars. He stayed by her side until she fell asleep. As the hum of the station surrounded them, he couldn't shake the strange feeling that his life had just changed forever. Far away, across millions of miles in the grand palace of Valora Prime, a beam of light flickered to life before Queen Sarathia. She stood tall, her golden crown shining beneath the glow of the chamber. Her eyes, sharp and full of wisdom, turned to the holographic display forming in front of her, a live feed from a hidden royal beacon. There she saw her daughter, safe, alive and lying beside a human man who watched over her like a guardian. The queen's breath caught in her throat as she heard Kalira's small voice echo through the feed. Will you be my Earthfather? And then the man's gentle reply. If that makes you feel safe, then yes. The queen's hands trembled slightly. Around her, the royal advisors gasped in shock, whispering about protocol, contamination, and dishonor. But Sarathia silenced them with a single gesture. Her eyes softened. He kept her alive, she said quietly. He gave her comfort. When all our fleets failed to find her. But your majesty, one advisor protested, he's human. They are primitive. Enough, Sarathia said coldly. This man will not be harmed. I will see where his heart leads him. She turned back to the glowing image of Elias, who sat quietly beside the sleeping princess. The queen's voice softened once more. Humans, she whispered. Perhaps there is more to them than we believed. Back on the outpost, Elias didn't know that his every word and action were being watched by the most powerful being in the Valoran Empire. He only knew that somewhere between the stars, a small alien child had asked for something simple, safety, warmth, and a family. And for the first time in years, Elias Ward felt something awaken in his heart. Purpose. He looked out the viewport, watching the stars drift by. The Valoran Palace stood high above the shining city of Valora Prime, its walls made of living crystal that glowed softly under 3 suns. From her grand chamber, Queen Sarathia watched a floating image before her, a holographic feed showing the human station where her daughter rested. Every detail was visible, the metal walls, the blinking lights, and most of all, the human who had found her daughter, Captain Elias Ward. The Queen had expected a soldier, a greedy scavenger, or an explorer looking for fame. But what she saw was something else. He was calm. His voice was gentle. He sat beside her daughter, wrapping her in a blanket, offering food, speaking softly as if the child were his own. Kalira's small voice echoed through the feed, still weak but happy. Earthfather. Story? Elias smiled. All right. Once upon a time there was a little girl who flew among the stars. The queen's heart ached. She had not heard Kalira laugh like that since before the palace grew cold with politics and power. Around her, the royal advisors whispered among themselves, uneasy. One of them, a tall alien with sharp silver robes, spoke first. Your Majesty, this human must be removed at once. He holds the princess. It is a violation of our royal code. Sarathia didn't turn her eyes away from the screen. He saved her, she said quietly. The advisor frowned. He could be using her as leverage. He does not know who she is, the queen replied. And yet he protects her. Another advisor stepped forward. But he is human. Their kind is young. They fight for resources, for territory. Their emotions control them. Sarathia finally turned to face them. Her gaze was sharp as lightning. And yet, she said softly, their emotions gave my daughter comfort. None of you found her. None of you heard her cry in the void. He did. The advisors fell silent. The queen walked closer to the projection, watching Elias hum a soft tune. Kalira's breathing had slowed, peaceful and calm. Do we still have a link to her beacon? Sarathia asked. Yes, Your Majesty, replied a guard. But it's faint. If we send a signal, the human may detect it. Do not send it yet, the Queen ordered. I wish to see how far his kindness reaches. Back on the outpost, Elias sat at his desk reviewing data from the damaged escape pod. He didn't realize that far away, royal eyes were observing his every move. He rubbed his tired eyes. Lyra, any updates? The pod's navigation core was damaged intentionally, said the AI. There are energy burns, signs of weapon fire. So she was attacked, Elias said. Yes. And based on the markings by Velaran vessels. Elias frowned. Velarans attacking their own ship? He didn't understand. It didn't make sense. Kalira stirred awake and looked at him sleepily. Earth, Father. Safe now? Yes, little one, Elias said, smiling. You're safe here. I won't let anyone hurt you. She blinked, studying his face. Why you help me? You know me. Elias leaned back, thinking. Because helping someone doesn't need a reason. That's what humans do. Kalira tilted her head, curious. Humans all kind? Elias laughed softly. Not all. But we try to be. She smiled again, and for a moment the room felt warmer, as if her glow reached his tired heart. Back in the Valoran palace, the Queen watched that same moment. The sound of the man's laugh and her daughter's voice filled the quiet chamber. Her long fingers tightened around the edge of her throne. She whispered to herself, helping someone doesn't need a reason. One of her advisors approached cautiously. Your Majesty, you cannot allow this human to influence the princess. She is heir to the throne. She must be returned. Yes, the Queen said, still watching the projection. But not yet. The advisor hesitated. Why not, my Queen? Sarathia turned her gaze toward the stars outside her window. Because I wish to understand what kind of heart would protect a child he does not know. If humans can do that, perhaps we have misjudged them. Her tone softened again, almost wistful. For centuries we called them fragile. But perhaps that fragility hides strength. Meanwhile, Elias was making repairs to the outpost's defense systems. He didn't know if Kalira's pursuers might return. She followed him everywhere, curious about every button, every sound, every blinking light. What is this? She asked, pointing to a glowing console. That, Elias said, smiling, is the shield control. It protects us from danger. She touched it gently. Like you protect me. He paused, surprised by her words. Yes, he said after a moment. Like that. Kalira looked at her reflection on the metal wall. On Valora, no one protect child. Guards protect crown. Mother protect throne. She looked down. Not me. Elias's chest tightened. Your mother loves you, he said quietly. She loved kingdom, Kalira whispered. Not Kalira. Elias didn't know what to say. He just placed a hand on her shoulder. Sometimes leaders forget how to show love. But that doesn't mean they don't feel it. The girl looked up at him with watery eyes. You feel it, he smiled. Maybe that's the only thing humans are good at. The Queen heard those same words echo through her feed. She closed her eyes for a long moment. Her memories drifted back to when Kalira was born, a small child with glowing eyes reaching out toward her mother with laughter. Back then, Sarathia had promised to protect her no matter what. But over time, the weight of the throne had changed her. Her empire was full of rivals, councils, and treaties. Love had become a luxury she could not show. Now, through a human's voice, she was reminded of something she had forgotten, what it felt like to simply be a mother. Her guard interrupted her thoughts. Your Majesty, the Council demands an update. They believe the child has been captured. The Queen straightened. Tell them she is under protection, she said firmly. By whom? By me, she replied. The guard hesitated. And the human? Sarathia's eyes glowed faintly. He will not be harmed. Send no ships near his station. I will decide what happens next. On the outpost, the next few days were calm. Elias began to teach Kalira small things about Earth, about oceans, trees, and music. She was fascinated by everything. Earth has blue sky? She asked. Yes, Elias said, smiling. And rain. You'd like the rain. Rain? Water from the clouds. It falls and makes the ground shine. Kalira closed her eyes, imagining it. Valora has no rain. Only glass storms. Elias shook his head. You'll see Earth one day. You'll love it. She opened her eyes and looked up at him. Then you show me? Elias laughed. If the stars allow it. Far away, Queen Sarathia watched her daughter's joy with quiet wonder. Every laugh, every question, every word filled the queen with both pride and guilt. She whispered to herself, "You are smiling again, my light." An advisor approached carefully. "Your Majesty, shall we recall the princess?" Sarathia looked at him, her expression unreadable. "Not yet. I wish to learn more about this man." "Why, my queen?" The queen turned her gaze back to the hologram. Elias was teaching Kalira how to draw a star using a light pen. "Because," she said softly, "he treats her not as a princess, but as a child." The advisor bowed and left, leaving her alone with the flickering image. For a long time, the queen simply watched, not as a ruler, but as a mother who had been too long apart from her child. That night, Elias sat by the viewing window with Kalira beside him. The stars glowed softly beyond the glass. "Earth, Father," she said sleepily. "Why stars shine?" Elias smiled. "Maybe they're trying to tell us we're not alone." Kalira nodded, resting her head on his arm. "Then I'm not alone now." Elias looked down at her peaceful face. "No, you're not." What he didn't know was that across the galaxy the queen's eyes filled with quiet tears as she whispered the same words. "No, my child." The stars around Outpost Orpheus glimmered quietly, hiding the growing storm of fate. For days, Captain Elias Ward and Princess Kalira had lived in fragile peace. He taught her how to use human tools, how to cook simple food, and how to draw constellations. She taught him alien words and stories from her world of crystal skies. But the calm never lasted long in space. That morning, the alarm broke the silence. Red lights flashed across the control room and the ship's AI, Lyra, spoke in a sharp tone. "Warning. Unidentified vessels approaching fast. 3 ships detected. Velarin signatures confirmed." Elias's heart tightened. He rushed to the console. "Velarin? Are you sure?" "Yes, Captain. Warships. They are not broadcasting royal codes. I detect weapon charge buildup." Elias looked toward Kalira, who stood behind him, eyes wide with fear. "Are they your people?" he asked. She shook her head quickly. "No, not Mother's guards. Bad ones. Council ships." Elias frowned. "Council ships?" Kalira nodded. "They want throne. They want me gone." He didn't need more explanation. He turned to Lyra. "Prepare jump sequence. We're leaving. Coordinates?" Elias opened a star map. "Nearest nebula, something that can hide us." "The Dusk Veil Nebula, Captain. It will mask our signal but contains unstable plasma fields." "Then it's perfect," Elias said. He looked down at Kalira and placed his hand on her shoulder. "Hold on tight, little one. We're going to run through shadows." As the engines roared to life, the 3 Valoran ships appeared in the distance, their hulls glowing blue with plasma energy. They fired warning shots, streaks of light cutting through the void. "Shields up," Elias ordered. "Shields at maximum. Impact in 3, 2, 1. The ship shuddered as beams struck, shaking loose panels. Kalira screamed softly, clutching his arm. "It's okay," Elias said calmly. "We'll make it. Just trust me." He angled the ship toward the swirling cloud of the Dusk Veil Nebula. The cosmic dust sparkled like violet fog, endless and deep. As they entered, sensors began to fail. Static filled the screens and stars disappeared behind a sea of glowing mist. "Warning, visual systems reduced to 20% efficiency," Lyra announced. "That's fine," Elias said. "They'll lose us in here." Behind them, the enemy ships fired again, but the nebula scattered their targeting signals. Soon the lights of pursuit faded, swallowed by the dark. Elias exhaled slowly. "We're safe for now." Kalira looked out the window, eyes wide at the glowing clouds outside. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Elias smiled faintly. "Yeah, dangerous but beautiful. Kind of like life." Back on Valora Prime, Queen Sarathia watched the same event unfold through flickering holographic images from her hidden beacon. When she saw her daughter's ship vanish into the nebula, her hands clenched the edge of her throne. "The Council dares to fire on my child," she whispered. Her guards bowed their heads. "Your Majesty orders?" "Track their fleet," the Queen commanded. "If they enter the nebula, follow them. But do not interfere yet. I must see what the human will do." Her advisors exchanged worried looks. One spoke carefully. "Your Majesty, if the human dies, he will not," Sarathia interrupted. "He has courage that my own generals lack." She turned toward the great star map glowing before her. "He protects her not for gain or power, but because he chose to. That choice makes him strong. Inside the nebula, lightning-like streaks of plasma crossed their path. The ship's lights dimmed. Power fluctuation, Lyra reported. We are losing stability. Elias gritted his teeth. Reroute auxiliary systems. Keep shields balanced. Kalira clung to the console, watching him move with quick, calm focus. You not afraid? She asked. He smiled without looking back. Of course I am. But fear's only useful if it keeps you sharp. She frowned slightly. Humans brave because fear? Sometimes, Elias said. Bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what's right even when you're scared. Kalira looked thoughtful. On Valora, fear means weakness. But you say, it means heart? Elias nodded. Exactly. The heart is what makes us strong. She stared at him with quiet admiration. You talk like leader, he chuckled. I'm just a mechanic, kid. Leaders wear fancier suits. Hours passed as they drifted deeper into the nebula, surrounded by soft lights and ghostly currents. Elias worked on repairing the engine core while Kalira handed him tools. What is this? She asked, holding a silver wrench awkwardly. That's a torque spanner, Elias said. Here, twist it like this. She tried to copy him and almost dropped it. Elias laughed. Close enough, Kalira giggled, the sound echoing softly through the small cabin. It was the first true laugh since she'd arrived. Why you smile? She asked suddenly. Because laughter means hope, Elias said. And we need that right now. She nodded slowly. On Valora, hope is forbidden word in wartime. Elias looked at her. Then maybe it's time someone brings it back. Meanwhile, outside the nebula, the Queen's fleet waited. Every few minutes, a faint signal flickered. Her daughter's beacon struggling through the storm. Still alive, one of the technicians said. Sarathia closed her eyes in relief. Hold the line. No ship enters until I command it. She turned to her private chamber where no one could hear her. There she whispered to the air, Be strong, my light. And you, human. Protect her as you promised. Her hand rested over her heart, something she hadn't done since Kalira was born. Inside the nebula, the ship shook violently. Energy wave incoming, Lyra warned. Hold on, Elias shouted. The blast hit them like thunder. Sparks flew from the panels. Alarm screamed. Kalira cried out as the ship spun, tumbling through the glowing mist. Elias fought the controls, his knuckles white. Stabilize. Come on, finally the engines caught. The ship slowed. Silence returned, except for the hum of machinery. Elias checked the readings. We lost the secondary thrusters, he said. But we're still alive. Kalira's eyes filled with tears. You save us again? He smiled tiredly. That's what dads do. She blinked. Earth Father? Yeah, Elias said softly. Earth Father. She smiled weakly, then leaned against him, exhausted. I feel safe with you. He looked down at her and whispered, I'll keep you safe no matter what. Far away, Queen Sarathia heard those same words through the faint beacon feed. She stood motionless, the words echoing in her mind. For the first time in years, she felt something she could not control. Gratitude. One of her generals entered. Your Majesty, the Council demands explanation for your silence. The Queen turned slowly. Tell the Council that I will answer them soon. For now they will wait. The general hesitated. And if they refuse? Then they will learn what happens when they threaten a mother, she said coldly. Back in the nebula, the ship drifted quietly. Elias worked on minor repairs while Kalira slept. He stared at the stars beyond the mist, lost in thought. He had never wanted to be a hero. But now protecting one small life felt more important than any mission he had ever taken. He whispered to himself, maybe humanity's strength isn't in weapons or ships. Maybe it's just caring when no one else will. The AI's voice broke the silence. Captain, I detect a small Valoran probe ahead. It's inactive but contains a data crystal. Elias frowned. Can you pull it in? Yes, Captain. A moment later, a small metallic sphere floated into the cargo bay. Elias opened it carefully and found a glowing blue crystal inside. A soft holographic image appeared. Queen Sarathia herself. Her eyes were calm but serious. Human, the recording said, I know you can hear this. You have my daughter. You have also my trust. Protect her until I arrive. Do not fear me. The message ended, leaving silence. Elias stared at the empty air for a long moment. Well, he said softly, guess we're not alone anymore. The stars outside shimmered like frozen sparks scattered across endless black velvet. Captain Elias Ward stood at the viewport of his small ship, the Horizon Dawn, watching the distant glimmer of the Valoran fleet grow closer. He could feel the vibration through the metal floor panels, a deep hum that warned of engines far stronger than his. Kalira stood beside him, clutching her small, glowing pendant. Her luminous blue eyes reflected fear and trust all at once. "Are they coming for me?" she asked softly, her voice trembling. Elias looked down at her and gave a gentle nod. "Yes, little one, but I won't let anyone hurt you. You're safe here." The AI voice, calm and female, echoed from the ship's console. Incoming message. Source: Valoran Royal Command Ship. Designation: Seraphine's Glory. Elias took a slow breath and straightened his uniform. "Put it on screen." The holographic projector lit the room with a wave of blue light. Slowly, a tall, elegant figure formed. Queen Sarathia of Valora. Her presence was both graceful and intimidating. Her silver crown shimmered like liquid starlight, and her gaze carried the weight of centuries of rule. Kalira gasped softly. "Mother." The queen's expression softened for just a heartbeat. "Kalira," she said gently, her voice smooth like a song. "My child, are you unharmed?" Kalira stepped forward. "Yes, mother. Captain Elias helped me. He saved me from the bad ones." Sarathia's gaze shifted to Elias. "Human, you hold what belongs to my throne. Return the princess immediately." Elias met her gaze steadily. "With respect, your majesty, she's not an object to return. She's a frightened child. I promised her safety, and when I keep my word." The room fell silent for a long moment. The queen's advisors whispered behind her holographic figure, their words sharp and full of pride. "Primitive species. Insolent tone. He dares refuse a monarch." Elias ignored the whispers. He looked only at the queen. "I'll bring her home, but only if I can speak with you face to face. I need to make sure she'll be safe, not a tool in some political game." One of the queen's advisors stepped forward angrily, but Sarathia raised her hand. "Enough." Her gaze lingered on the human captain for several seconds. Finally, she said, "Very well, Captain Ward. You will be granted an audience." The hologram vanished, leaving silence behind. Kalira looked up at Elias with wide eyes. "You're not afraid of my mother?" Elias smiled faintly. "Of course I am. But sometimes doing the right thing means standing even when your legs shake." Hours later, the Horizon Dawn docked with the massive royal flagship. The size difference was almost laughable. His ship looked like a speck beside the Valoran vessel, which stretched kilometers across, glowing with silver-blue lines of energy. When the docking clamps locked, Elias took Kalira's hand. "Stay close to me, all right?" She nodded. Together, they walked into the airlock where a group of armored guards stood waiting. They didn't raise their weapons, but watched the human with cold curiosity. The lead guard spoke. "The queen awaits. Follow." They moved through shining corridors of crystal and light, where walls shimmered with faint energy patterns. The air smelled faintly of ozone and flowers Elias couldn't name. The technology here was far beyond Earth's level, yet everything felt strangely alive, as if the ship itself was breathing. Finally, they entered the throne hall. The vast chamber glowed with silver light, its floor made of polished stone that reflected the stars above. At the center sat Queen Sarathia, not on a golden throne but on a seat of clear crystal, surrounded by floating holographic ribbons that shimmered with data. When Elias entered, the murmurs of nobles filled the air. Words like human, primitive, and unworthy echoed faintly, though none dared speak loudly in front of their queen. Kalira broke away from Elias's hand and ran forward. "Mother!" The queen rose from her throne, descending the steps with flowing robes that trailed like streams of light. She knelt and embraced her daughter. For a moment, all royal formality vanished. She was just a mother holding her lost child. "I feared I had lost you," Sarathia whispered. "I was scared." Kalira replied, "But Captain Elias protected me. He was kind. He gave me food and stories. He even sang when I couldn't sleep." The queen turned her gaze back to Elias. Something unreadable flickered in her eyes. Curiosity, perhaps admiration. "You risked much for a being not your own." Elias bowed his head slightly. Any decent human would have done the same. The queen walked closer, her presence radiating quiet power. You speak as if kindness is strength. It is, Elias said simply. Power fades. Kindness lasts. That sentence struck the queen deeper than she expected. In Valoran culture, strength and control had always ruled above compassion. Yet this human, fragile by their standards, stood before her with calm conviction. No fear, no greed. Behind them, one of the counselors stepped forward. Your Majesty, this human has breached interstellar law. He interfered with royal affairs. The punishment? Silence, the queen commanded. Her voice was soft, yet every syllable carried authority. He did what many of you could not. He protected my child when our own failed. The hall went still. Elias remained silent, unsure what would happen next. Serathia turned back to him. Captain Ward, I have watched your actions. Every word, every gesture. You called my daughter child, not princess. You comforted her when she wept. You risked your life to keep her safe. Why? Elias looked her in the eyes. Because she needed someone. And because humanity believes that every life, and no matter where it's from, deserves care. For the first time, the queen smiled faintly. Your species is strange, Captain. We get that a lot, he replied with a small grin. Kalira giggled, and even the queen's lips curved in a brief moment of warmth. Later that evening, the queen invited Elias to a private meeting in her observation chamber. The stars stretched endlessly outside the glass wall, painting the room in silver hues. I owe you more than words, she said quietly. You showed me something my empire has forgotten. Humility. Elias shook his head. You don't owe me anything. Just promise me she'll be safe. Serathia studied him carefully. Would you trust me, knowing what you've seen of our world? I'll trust your heart, Elias said softly. Not your crown. The queen was silent for a long time. Then she nodded slowly. You are braver than most warriors I've met. Before leaving, Elias looked once more at Kalira, who smiled and waved. Goodbye, Earthfather, she whispered. His heart ached at the words, but he smiled. Goodbye, Star Princess. As he walked toward his ship, he didn't notice the queen watching him from the shadows, her expression thoughtful. She whispered to herself, perhaps the galaxy still has something to learn from humans. When the Horizon Dawn left the royal fleet, Elias felt both peace and sorrow. The queen had promised Kalira's safety, but he couldn't forget her eyes, full of wisdom and conflict. Something told him this story wasn't over yet, and far behind him, in the halls of Valoran power, Queen Serathia stood before her court and declared, No one shall harm the human who carried my daughter. The bright light of Valora's three suns streamed through the palace's towering crystal windows, casting shimmering patterns on the polished floors. Princess Kalira ran through the corridors, laughing as she skipped ahead of her mother. She was no longer the frightened child who had fled in a small escape pod. She was confident, her silver blue eyes bright with joy and curiosity. Behind her, Captain Elias Ward followed carefully, making sure she did not trip on the glimmering floor. Today was a day of ceremony, a day that would change the course of two worlds. The queen had declared a gathering of her court, nobles, counselors, diplomats, and even the human observers from the distant Earth Alliance. The massive hall sparkled, with energy fields and floating holographic displays, and at its center the Valoran throne gleamed like frozen light. Elias had never imagined standing in such a place. Despite the grandeur, he held Kalira's hand firmly, reminding himself that courage did not come from the size of a throne, but from the heart. The hall hushed as the queen ascended the steps to her throne, every eye turning toward her. She looked every part a ruler, tall, commanding, and calm. Yet her gaze softened as it rested on her daughter. Kalira, she said, her voice carrying across the hall. Do you remember the human who guided you through danger? Kalira stepped forward, her small hand squeezing Elias's. Earthfather saved me, she said boldly. He kept me safe when the council wanted to harm me. He taught me about kindness and bravery. A murmur ran through the crowd. Humans were still considered weak, simple, and fragile by most Valorans. And yet here was one who had earned the trust of the princess, and the attention of the queen herself. Serathia rose slowly, moving down the steps until she stood before Elias. The court held its breath. You, she said, her voice calm but firm, have done what no soldier, no diplomat, and no council member could. You protected life when all others thought only of rules and politics. You treated a child as she deserves, with care, with respect, and with love. Elias bowed his head slightly, humbled. Your Majesty, I did what any human would do for a child in danger. The Queen smiled faintly and her advisors shifted uneasily. She raised her hand. Hear this. Bravery and kindness, not bloodlines and rules, shall define this moment. The human who cared for my daughter shall be honored in my court. Let there be no shame, no insult. Let there be respect. A ripple of surprise ran through the hall. Counselors whispered furiously, some trying to argue, but the Queen's gaze silenced them. Kalira tugged Elias forward. Earth Father, stand here, she said, her voice ringing with youthful confidence. Elias stepped forward slowly. He felt the weight of the room upon him, but when he looked into Kalira's eyes, he saw no fear, only trust. Captain Elias Ward, the Queen continued, her voice carrying both authority and warmth. I name you honorary guardian of the royal line of Valora. You shall always have my respect, my daughter's trust, and the recognition of my empire. Elias felt his heart pound. He had never sought power, medals, or recognition. Yet something deeper filled him. A sense of purpose, of achievement, that mattered far more than any rank or title. Thank you, Your Majesty, he said softly. I will do my best. The Queen nodded. I have no doubt. The court erupted in quiet applause, restrained by protocol, while Kalira clapped loudly, jumping with excitement. Earth Father, you brave, she said. Elias smiled. I just followed my heart, little one. The rest is history. Sarathia watched the two humans, one alien, one earthborn, and something shifted inside her. She had always ruled with strategy and strength. Yet here, before her eyes, she saw a power she had underestimated for centuries. Humanity's courage born from compassion, their strength born from care, not conquest. You have shown me, Captain Ward, that the universe holds more than power and fear, she said quietly, addressing both the court and her daughter. It holds choice, and today, choice favors life. Kalira jumped up, hugging her mother tightly. Mother, he is my Earth Father. He is kind. He saved me. The Queen smiled and held her daughter close. Yes, my light, she said. He has my blessing. Elias stood a step back, unsure of his place, but Kalira's small hand in his reminded him that some bonds were greater than titles, thrones, or even galaxies. After the ceremony, the Queen led Elias to a quiet chamber overlooking the city. The three suns hung low, bathing the crystal spires in soft golden light. Captain Ward, she said, her voice gentle, you have done more than I imagined. You earned my daughter's trust and showed me a truth my empire forgot. Humans are extraordinary. Elias shook his head. I'm just a man, Your Majesty. But I believe every person can do great things if they care enough to try. Sarathia studied him for a long moment. Perhaps the galaxy needs more of your kind. Perhaps this is the beginning of something larger, a bond between our peoples. Elias's lips curved into a small smile. That's what I hope. Kalira tugged at her mother's robes. Mother, can Earth Father come to Valora sometimes? Sarathia's eyes softened. Yes, he may. And you may visit Earth one day. He will show you skies of blue, oceans and mountains beyond your imagination. Kalira hugged Elias tightly. I want to see Earth. With you, Earth Father. He smiled down at her. We'll see it together, Star Princess. That evening, as the suns set over the city, the Queen addressed her council. Her voice was calm, firm, and decisive. The child who called a human father has taught us something profound. Let this be a lesson. Strength is not always weapons or fleets. It is courage, compassion, and protection of life. Let there be peace with humanity. Let us honor those who act with true heart. The council fell silent. Some bowed, Some shifted, uncomfortably, but all knew the Queen had spoken with authority that none could oppose. In the distance, the stars of the cosmos gleamed like diamonds scattered across the black. Somewhere far away, humans looked up and wondered what secrets the universe held. But Elias Ward knew one truth above all. Courage and care could unite worlds. One act of protection, one choice to do what was right could change the fate of empires. Kalira yawned and leaned against him. Earthfather, promise you always protect me? Elias knelt, hugging her close. I promise, little one. Always. The Queen watched them from her balcony, her eyes soft, full of pride and reflection. She had heard the words, watched the kindness, and learned something she had long forgotten. Love and bravery often walk hand in hand, and for the first time, in centuries, a human's name was not whispered with fear or doubt in Valoran halls. It was spoken with respect and perhaps even admiration.